Have you ever seen a moment that lasted only a few seconds, yet somehow left millions of fans wondering what really happened behind the scenes? This time, ARMY's attention is turning toward Jimin and several BTS members after a short clip appeared to capture them in a backstage changing area. They were visible for only a brief moment before suddenly disappearing from the camera's view. There was no dramatic announcement, no official explanation, just a few seconds of footage. And yet, those few seconds were enough to make ARMY stop, replay the video, and look at every tiny detail. But there is one question that makes this moment even more intriguing. Why did Jimin and the other members appear for such a short time before disappearing behind the scenes again? Were they simply preparing for their next appearance? Were they changing outfits and getting ready for the next stage? Or was there something much more ordinary, yet much more human, happening away from the spotlight? Before we get to the part that has captured the most attention, let's take a step back and understand the setting. When we watch BTS on stage, we usually see the finished product. We see the lights, the choreography, the music, the smiles, the powerful performances, and the incredible energy that fills the venue. But what we see on stage is only a small part of what happens during a major performance. Behind those bright lights is an entirely different world. There are costume changes, makeup adjustments, staff members moving quickly, technical preparations, microphones being checked, performers preparing for their next appearance, and moments when the members simply need to breathe and regain their energy. That is why a short backstage clip can feel so different from an official performance video. It gives fans a tiny glimpse into a side of BTS that is usually hidden from the audience. In the footage circulating among fans, the camera appears to capture activity in a backstage area. Several people can be seen around the space, while someone who appears to be Jimin is visible near the lower portion of the frame. Another member can also be seen in the same general area. Because the footage is short and the camera angle is limited, we cannot know exactly what everyone was doing at that precise moment. And that distinction is important. What we can say is that the clip appears to show a brief backstage moment rather than a planned public appearance. And perhaps that is exactly why ARMY found it so interesting. There was nothing overly staged about it. No carefully prepared pose. No dramatic entrance. No spotlight. Just a few seconds of what appears to be everyday backstage activity. For fans who have followed BTS for years, those ordinary moments can sometimes feel incredibly special. Think about what may have happened only minutes earlier. Jimin and the other members could have been standing in front of thousands of fans, surrounded by bright lights and deafening cheers. They may have been singing, dancing, smiling, interacting with the audience, and giving everything they had to their performance. Then suddenly, they step behind the stage. The atmosphere changes. The massive audience is no longer directly in front of them. The lights are different. The noise is reduced. Staff members are working around them, and the members have to prepare themselves for whatever comes next. That transition is something fans rarely get to see. And this short clip may have captured precisely that kind of transition. Jimin, in particular, has always been known for his attention to performance details. His movements, expressions, timing, and stage presence are carefully delivered. But moments like this remind fans that behind that polished performance is a human being who also needs time to breathe, prepare, and recover. That is why the reaction from ARMY is so interesting. Fans were not simply looking at who appeared in the footage. They were also paying attention to what happened moments later. They were there. Then suddenly, they were gone from the camera's view. Almost as if the camera had accidentally captured a tiny window into a much larger backstage routine. And that is where the curiosity begins. But there is something we should make clear before going any further. When a short clip becomes popular online, it is very easy for speculation to become mixed with fact. Fans may create theories about what they think happened, especially when the footage does not show the entire situation. However, seeing Jimin and other members backstage does not automatically mean that they were hiding something from ARMY. It does not prove that something was wrong. And it certainly does not tell us exactly why they disappeared from view. Those details have not been confirmed simply by the footage. What we can appreciate is what the video actually shows. A brief, seemingly spontaneous backstage moment. And sometimes, a simple moment does not need a dramatic explanation to become meaningful. For many fans, seeing Jimin and the other members away from the stage creates a completely different emotional feeling. For years, ARMY has watched BTS through concerts, interviews, official videos, live streams, behind-the-scenes content, and countless public appearances. Fans are accustomed to seeing the members through carefully produced content. So when an unexpected camera angle captures them in a more ordinary environment, it can feel like a tiny window into a world fans normally do not get to see. And there is another emotional layer to this moment. On stage, Jimin and the other members can look almost unstoppable. They perform demanding choreography. They sing. They interact with fans. They maintain their expressions. They keep moving even when the performance requires enormous physical effort. From the audience, it can sometimes look effortless. But performances at that level require extraordinary energy. Even the most experienced performer still needs moments of recovery. Jimin is no exception. The members can become tired. They can need a few quiet moments. They can need time to change clothes. They can need to drink water, prepare their microphones, check their appearance, or simply collect themselves before going back in front of thousands of people. And perhaps that is the most human part of this entire story. Behind the stage, they are not simply global superstars. They are people working through an incredibly demanding schedule. People preparing for the next performance. People relying on one another and their staff. People who, just like anyone else, need moments away from the spotlight. There is something fascinating about watching Jimin and the other members move between these two worlds so quickly. One moment, they are performers commanding a massive stage. The next, they are backstage preparing for what comes next. That transformation happens almost instantly, and fans rarely get to witness it. This is why the short footage has generated so much attention. Not because something spectacular necessarily happened, but because something ordinary was captured. And ordinary moments can sometimes reveal more about a person than a perfectly rehearsed performance. When there is no stage lighting, no choreographed entrance, and no carefully planned camera shot, fans can see a different side of the atmosphere surrounding their favorite artists. It may only be a few seconds, but for someone who has supported BTS for years, those few seconds can carry a surprising amount of emotion. Because eventually, fans begin to understand that not every meaningful moment has to happen in front of a huge audience. Sometimes the most memorable moments happen behind the curtain. A member walking toward the changing area. Someone preparing for the next stage. A quick interaction between members. A moment of rest. Or simply seeing them together before they return to the spotlight. And this is where the footage becomes more than just another backstage clip. It reminds us of everything that happens before and after the moments we see on stage. Every performance has a process. Every costume change takes preparation. Every choreography requires practice. Every smile in front of thousands of fans comes after countless hours of work. And behind every seemingly effortless performance is a team of people working constantly to make that moment possible. Jimin and the other members are at the center of that performance, but they are also part of a much larger backstage operation. That is why we should be careful when interpreting a few seconds of footage. A short clip can show us a moment. It cannot always tell us the entire story. And perhaps that is exactly what makes this moment so intriguing. The footage gives us just enough information to notice Jimin and the other members, but not enough information to explain everything. And that gap between what we can see and what we do not know is what has made fans so curious. What happened immediately after the camera stopped capturing them? Why were they no longer visible? Were they simply moving to another part of the backstage area? Were they preparing for their next appearance? Were they changing costumes? Or were they simply taking a short moment away from the camera before returning to the stage? At this point, we should not pretend to know an answer that has not been confirmed, but we can appreciate the larger picture. The clip reminds us that BTS performances are not created only on stage. There is an entire world behind the curtain. And Jimin, along with the other members, has to navigate that world while maintaining the level of performance that millions of people have come to expect. Perhaps that is why so many ARMY felt emotional when they saw the footage. Because for a brief moment, the polished image of a global superstar gave way to something much simpler. A person backstage. A member preparing. A performer taking care of what needs to happen before the next moment in front of the audience. And maybe, after watching this, fans will look at BTS performances a little differently. The lights may make everything look effortless. But behind those lights is preparation, discipline, teamwork, and an enormous amount of energy. And that is something worth remembering. Still, there is one detail that makes this story even more fascinating. The most interesting part may not actually be the moment when Jimin and the members were seen backstage. It may be what happened immediately afterward. Because after appearing briefly in the camera's view, they were suddenly no longer visible. And that simple change has left fans asking the same question again and again. What happened after they disappeared behind the curtain? Was it simply a normal backstage transition? Or did that brief moment reveal something about how Jimin and the other members handle the intense pressure of performing for thousands of people? And now, we come to the part that makes this short backstage moment even more meaningful. After Jimin and the other BTS members were briefly captured on camera, they disappeared from view almost as quickly as they appeared. For ARMY watching the footage, those few seconds were enough to create a wave of curiosity. But perhaps the most important question is not, where did they go? The more meaningful question is, what were they preparing for before they returned to the spotlight? Because behind every unforgettable BTS performance is a moment that the audience never sees. The audience sees the final result. They see Jimin walking onto the stage, the lights coming on, the music beginning, and thousands of fans reacting at once. But before that happens, there are quiet moments backstage. Moments of preparation, concentration, costume changes, communication, and recovery. And that is why seeing Jimin and the other members in this environment can feel surprisingly emotional. They do not need to be performing for fans to feel connected to them. Sometimes simply seeing them together behind the stage is enough. So when several members appear together in an ordinary backstage environment, fans naturally pay attention. But there is something we should remember. A short video cannot tell us everything. We do not know exactly what each member was doing at that moment. We cannot determine how tired they were simply from a few seconds of footage. And we should not turn fan theories into confirmed facts. What we can see, however, is enough to appreciate the reality behind a massive performance. There is work happening everywhere. Someone is preparing costumes. Someone is checking equipment. Someone is helping the performers get ready. And somewhere in the middle of all that activity are Jimin and the other members, preparing themselves to step back in front of ARMY. That is the part that can easily be forgotten when we watch a spectacular concert. The performance may last a few hours, but the preparation behind it can take much longer. Every movement has been practiced. Every transition has been considered. Every costume has been prepared. Every stage moment requires coordination. And the members have to maintain their focus even when their bodies may be asking for a break. Perhaps that is why this tiny backstage clip feels so different. It does not show the glamour of the stage. It shows the space between performances, the quiet moments before the applause returns. And in those moments, Jimin is not simply the global star that millions recognize. The same can be said for every BTS member. They may disappear from the camera, but that does not mean the story stops. Behind the curtain, the work continues. And eventually they return. That is what makes this moment so touching. The camera captured only a tiny piece of their day, but it reminds us that every time BTS appears on stage, there is an entire unseen journey happening before that entrance. So perhaps ARMY does not need to know exactly what happened during those missing seconds. Maybe it is enough to understand what those seconds represent. A pause. A preparation. A breath. A moment away from the spotlight before returning to the people waiting for them. And when Jimin eventually steps back onto the stage, the audience sees the confident performer again. But now, after seeing this brief glimpse backstage, fans may understand that the journey to that stage was not as simple as it looked. There were people working behind the scenes. There were preparations happening outside the camera's frame. And there were moments when the members could simply be themselves before the lights came back on. That is the human side of BTS. And perhaps that is why ARMY continues to feel so emotionally connected to them after all these years. Not only because of their music, not only because of their performances, but because behind the extraordinary artists are ordinary human moments that remind fans that these 7 members also need rest, preparation, support, and each other. So, was there really something mysterious about Jimin and the other members disappearing from the camera? Based on the footage alone, we simply cannot say. It may have been nothing more than a normal backstage transition.